Hello, welcome to my latest video about writing. This one is 10 ways to improve your writing. Tricks or tips or whatever you want to call them that will help you write better. Now this is good if you're writing a novel, a screenplay, a play, a short story, a non-fiction book, an email, a shopping list, anything. This will help you write it better. And if you want to know other things in my series on writing, such as how to write faster, better and clearer, there's a link up there somewhere, so you watch that one next or beforehand or whatever. And I'm just here to help. Well, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to tell you what might help. That's all I'm here for. Nothing else. Number one, it's about the reader, not about you. The whole point of this is to entertain the reader. Forget your ego. This is about making it the best you possibly can. Having got that on board, number two, know exactly what you're going to say and say it. Don't deviate. Don't go off-piste. If you're going to explain something, if it's a non-fiction, then explain it. Don't explain this and something else and something else and something else. Just say what you're going to say. If you're writing a chapter in a novel, what's going to happen? Well, just write what's going to happen. Ooh, that was close, wasn't it? Number three. Show, don't tell. Easier said than done, I know, but once you get in the flow, it's a lot easier than you might think. Right, here are three examples of how to show, not tell. The first one is the sun had just risen and it was cold. That's okay, I suppose, but it's a bit dry, isn't it? Not very interesting. So how about something like, of course, this is off the top of my head, the burnt orange dawn twinkled off the frosted blades of grass, or whatever you want to do there. But that, I think, might need a bit of work, but it's certainly more interesting than the sun had just risen and it was cold. Number two, Mary was tired. How about Mary yawned? Or if you want to go into more detail about why she was tired, then you can. But Mary was tired, boring, Mary yawned. That's more show than tell, isn't it? And then the third one, the Vikings came in ships and murdered all the villagers. Now, that would be fine if you're doing a history of the village and, say, for a murder mystery or just a local history pamphlet. But if your story concerns the Vikings and the villagers, then that is a bit general, isn't it? So I suggest that if your story is about the Vikings, then you want to do something along the lines of Thor commanded the first Viking longboat and it swept into the harbour before anybody was awake. 104 men crept off the boat and swam ashore, the water cold, etc. Anyway, that's just off the top of my head. It's obviously not great, but that's the way to write that. So there we go. Back to the list. Number four, vary sentence and paragraph length. Don't make your novel or your piece of non-fiction all very samey. Vary the writing pattern. Stop, start, stop, start. Flow to a certain extent, but add a bit of texture. This is the second chapter of Rum Punch by Elmore Leonard, just to show about how a sentence and paragraph length can make reading a lot easier. At its best, I think, writing is somebody explaining something to you. Now, if it's something like a Charles Dickens story, I think of him explaining to you with his Victorian pomp, where it's a totally different experience to having someone like Elmore Leonard explaining it. You'll see that he uses 3-word sentences, 2-word sentences, and then 2-line sentences. A lot of it is mixed up between speech and action. It's got a rhythm to it. The two characters are, if you like,
sizing each other up. Max is a bail bondsman, and presumably the guy who's just walked in is a criminal of some kind, and they want to know what they're up to. Elmore Leonard is explaining to us what's going on in various length sentences and paragraphs. I think it's best in this modern age to use shorter paragraphs rather than longer ones, because the average person reading gets put off if they see lots of dark type on a page. The thing about Elmore Leonard was he managed to put lots of white space on the page, and I think that's pretty good myself, because it doesn't hurt to make it easy to read, as I keep saying. You don't have to dumb it down. That's the thing. You can make it easy to read and still be intelligent. So that's Rum Punch by Elmore Leonard.
5. Keep your vocabulary varied but accessible. In other words, don't just keep putting the same words all the time. Try and think of slightly different words to say the same thing if you have to do any repetition, but don't add flowery words that no one knows what they mean for the sake of it. The whole point of writing for the reader is that the reader has a comfortable experience. It's not a jerky stop-start experience. They don't have to keep stopping to find out what a word means or what you mean by a certain phrase. Make it easy to understand, but not for a child. Don't write like a tabloid newspaper for an 8-year-old. Write for, say, I don't know, somebody who's like reasonably intelligent, but something that a 14-year-old could easily understand. Get rid of unnecessary words and phrases, especially adverbs.
Give me an example.
Here is the opening to the Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown. As you can see, this is what people don't like, because it does sound a bit clunky. Although it is a great story, let's say that. He is a fantastic storyteller. But it's just stuff like this that does clunk a bit, I think. Renowned curator Jacques Saunier, if that's how it's pronounced, staggered through the vaulted archway of the museum's grand gallery. He lunged for the nearest painting he could see, a Caravaggio. Grabbing the gilded frame, the 76-year-old man heaved the masterpiece towards himself until it tore from the wall, and Saunier collapsed backward in a heap beneath the canvas. I'm sure Jacques Saunier was a renowned curator, but I'm not sure that Dan Brown had to say so in the first 2 words of the book. And also, grabbing the gilded frame, the 76-year-old man heaved the masterpiece. You see, I don't know. Anyway, Dan Brown's a multi-millionaire. He's sold millions of books. I'm not, and I haven't. So what right have I got to say these things? Who knows?
Number 7, remove anything that's extraneous or extra to what you want to say. Now, we've just done that with words in number 6, and in number 7, we're doing it with whole passages, whole chapters, whole scenes that aren't necessary to the story. There's a phrase, I can't remember who it was who actually first coined it, it's murder your darlings. And every writer knows that you've just written something which you're very proud of, but the back of your mind, you know it's not really necessary. That's murdering your darlings, because as going back to number 1, we are writing for the reader. We are not writing for ourselves. So anything that just pleases you and has no place in the story really ought to go. This is the difference between a commercial writer and somebody who just writes because they want to. There's nothing wrong with writing for yourself, but we're talking here about writing commercial fiction, and the two really do not go together. Sorry about that, but that's the way it is. Make your mind up who you're writing for. If you're writing for yourself, fine, get on with it. If you're writing for a reader, then make sure that it's as entertaining as you possibly can make it. Number 8, avoid cliches like the plague. Now, that's obviously a cliche, but I've used that line in everything I've written from probably 1980 onwards. It is true. If you're used to seeing something in print, don't include, unless you're using it in a humorous way, which is very hard to do. So unless you're very confident about your writing skills, I would tend just to not include anything that's a cliche. Number 9, don't forget there are more senses than just sight. Like they walk into a room, they see a man standing by a window, the curtains are red, whatever, but it's just what the person sees. Whereas a skillful writer can think about maybe a smell. What does it smell of? Does it smell of old damp? Does it smell of coffee? Does it smell of cheese? Does it smell of horses? Also sound. Is there music playing in the background? So use it sparingly and it's great. So don't forget, you've got smell, you've got hearing. Is there music playing? Is it cold? Is it hot? Is it damp? So there's touch, smell, taste and hearing. But don't forget, don't overdo it. It's easy to go overboard. So the best instinct is to weigh back. It's better to be slightly sparse in your descriptions than to go over the top. I mean, for example, if you look at Raymond Chandler's novels, he uses the all 5 senses very well, but it's not over the top. You don't get bored of it. That's the secret. So less rather than more. That's if I was going to say one thing, less is more. Because number 10, the final one of my 10 tips is, number 10 is do not overdo it. No matter what it is, less is more. So we're talking about descriptions, we're talking about words, we're talking about whatever we're talking about, less is better than doing too much. Those 10 ways can really help you make a novel or a non-fiction book or anything you're writing, even an email, can make it a lot better. So there you go. That's it. See you next time.